What up? This is Jerry Spatch. I'm coming at you with a video. In this video, I'm going to tell you how you can find a manufacturer for your startup product. You can get it built, produced, and shipped. I'm going to explain the different ways, the best ways. So by the end of this, you'll know the route to take when you're trying to get your product made. Alright, so let's hit it. So the first way to get your product manufactured is to use a middleman. So a lot of people would be like, why can't I use a middleman? I can just go to the manufacturer directly. But there's a lot of good reasons to doing this, especially if it's your first product. What a middleman basically is they're the person between the manufacturer and you. So you don't ever communicate with the actual manufacturer. You communicate with that middleman, and then they transfer the information to the manufacturer, so you don't have to do it. So there's a lot of pros to this. First pro is, of course, you only have to communicate with one person. Factories are really big people. If you're lucky, they'll give you an account manager, but that account manager has many different people they're working with, and a lot of times they're working with much bigger clients than you, especially if you're a startup. So you're not gonna get that manufacturer's attention. On the other hand, the middleman, you might be one of their only clients, or even if you are one of their only clients, the manufacturer wouldn't give you attention, but they give that middleman attention because the middleman brings them a lot of business. So a lot of times you'll get better service if you decide to go with a middleman. Two, so the middleman has done everything before also. If you're starting out, like no matter what you're making, no matter how simple, no matter how complex, you're gonna mess up because you've never done it before. You don't know how the templates are gonna come out, you don't know any of the manufacturing processes. Even if you researched it, you've never seen it done, the middleman is just gonna have more expertise than you do. That's just by default, nothing you can do about that. So you get their expertise, which is important, because they do this with other people, the exact same thing, and they're good at it, hopefully, if you did your research. But they're gonna know how to do it because they've done it before. You have not. That's why you're a startup. 3, a lot of middlemen operate by word of mouth highly, so they're incentivized to give you good service. If you work directly with a Chinese manufacturer or even an American manufacturer, they don't really care that much about word of mouth a lot of the time, honestly, especially if it's overseas. That middleman, they care that you come back to them again in the future because they're trying to get bigger clients and they want you pleased because they know you could just go to the manufacturer directly. Their offer to you is that they make it easier, more enjoyable, and a faster experience. And they're gonna try to provide all those things or else they lose business. You post on the internet, don't go to them. That's a big deal to them because they're 1 or 2 people. So they want to please you. Some manufacturers just don't because you're a small startup. So another reason is connections. So that middleman, since they're so in the industry, of course they know manufacturers, but a lot of the time they know other people who can help you with basically whatever you need help with. Like when I made Verse the Rap game, my freestyle rap and bass card game, the middleman I ended up working with, which I can make another video about, they knew publishers, they knew media people, they knew board game influencers because they liked my product, they saw the high quality, they were able to connect me with those people, and that's part of the service they provide. Manufacturer, they're just gonna make the product, it's done. You do the rest. Middleman can provide other stuff outside of manufacturing, other resources, give you tips from going forward, because they know so many other people who do the same thing that you're doing. So some of the cons are, of course, it's cheaper to just go right to the source. You can go right to the manufacturer. You can find who produces your middleman's product, and then you can go to them, ask them to make the product. It'll be cheaper because the middleman's gonna mark it up, of course. Granted, that manufacturer might not care about you or might not even work with you if you're too small. But it's going to be higher price with the middleman, I guarantee it, because they have to make a profit. The thing is security. So with the middleman, they know other people in the industry. So, I mean, unless they're incentivized to or they don't have a reason to, they can share your secrets. Most of them won't do this, and your fear of this is probably overhyped, but it's something that does happen sometimes, so you want to be slightly wary of it. Probably won't happen to you though. I wouldn't worry about it if you are indeed worried about it. So the other thing about the middleman is they are a separate business also trying to make a profit. They can increase prices on you at some point. Granted, you could always just switch, but realize if there's only one place that can produce your product, that's usually not a good thing because they increase prices. What are you gonna do? You have to pay the price, which means that you have to increase the price of your product. Customers get mad, it's all bad. So you wanna have as much pricing control as possible. Ideally, always have a second option, no matter who you're manufacturing with, so you can get that lower price when you need it. If you're going direct from the factory, the main pro over this, over working with a middleman, is that one is of course price. So the middleman takes the price from the manufacturer, then marks it up to make his profit. With that, it's just cheaper. Like, for the same product, you can get it cheaper. And as a side note, don't think you can go to the middleman, get him to make the product, and go to the factory. They won't do that. They'll just say to keep working with the middleman. But yeah, factory direct is cheaper. And this could be the sole reason you want to do this, because that does matter a lot. Your margins are important. Honestly, price is one of the only reasons you'd want to go direct to the manufacturer as opposed to a middleman. Like, the middleman is going to have more expertise and be able to communicate with you better and communicate with the manufacturer better, especially if they're in another country. Just something to think about. Granted, you can cut out that middleman and just take the extra profit. If you're able to do it, do it. If you're experienced enough, do it. So, cons of working direct with manufacturer. One is scale. A lot of these companies, they're producing millions and millions of units. So you come with your order of 500 units, they're going to weigh the pros and cons of it. They might produce it, but you're not going to get a lot of personalization or attention as opposed to some of their bigger clients. So another thing is just transparency and accountability. This is really important if you're going direct from manufacturer and the company's in another place. It's really, really hard or really, really expensive to sue a company if they're in another country. So when you're working with a manufacturer, like, if they mess up something big and you can't sell the product, you just have dead units because of it, you spend all your money, there's really not a lot you can do without spending more money and spending a lot more time doing it. You can go on Kickstarter. So many Kickstarter projects get ruined because the manufacturer messed up. Even on really, really simple products, you'd be surprised. Like, even like a deck of cards, manufacturers will print them upside down. They'll get the boxes wet in shipping, so there's mold everywhere. And there's nothing they can really do. You can't sue a random Chinese company in China in a place you've never been to. You don't have a lot of repercussions for them messing up or not giving you attention and giving you an unsellable product. Communication, like, if you're a startup, you might not know a lot of the lingo, manufacturing processes. The manufacturer is going to know all the lingo and all the manufacturing processes. If you don't know that, or you're unclear about it, they might do things you might not expect, or they might just not bother mentioning things to you because you don't know and they know you don't know. So you have to be able to protect yourself in that sense. If you think you might miss anything, you're probably missing something. You don't know until your first time through a lot of the time. So this is especially important with like companies overseas, and I can make whole nother video on this. But all your trade secrets, your trademarks, your patents, all of that, none of that's going to matter in China or a lot of other places that you can make them in. So, like, if you're doing something secret or that's not already being done by anyone, there's a really good possibility that it's going to be copied. And there's really nothing you can do about that possibility, no matter what anyone tells you. Like, if you have a good idea, no one's doing it, they know how to make it, they know what you're selling it for, they know the countries you're selling it in, they can sell your idea to someone else, or they can just make it themselves. Overall, going direct to factory has its pros and cons, but I'd recommend it if you know what you're doing already and you can safeguard yourselves from a lot of the risk that can happen with manufacturing, because it can just ruin your business. Go on Kickstarter. So many companies get ruined specifically because of manufacturing issues. I recommend this if you're intermediate level, like in the startup world. And another way to get your startup product manufactured is just to manufacture it yourself. You get your own equipment, you do it by hand, you hire employees. It's just to do the entire process yourself. So it's all in-house and you have complete access to the manufacturing processes. You can probably guess there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons to this. Number one, of course, is you have complete freedom to do whatever you want if you own the equipment and you own the process and you own the product. So you want to test something, you can do that. You don't have to pay anyone to do tests. You don't have to pay anyone to make more. You don't have to pay anyone for different versions. This is important to develop expertise, and you just have freedom to do whatever you want. Secrecy, like, no one's going to take the product you're building in your own warehouse or manufacturing company or even house. Like, no one knows what you're doing. Another thing is costability. You own the equipment, you own everything you need to make it. You're finding your own suppliers to get the raw materials for it. Like the manufacturer, if they see you're successful, they can just up the cost on you. Now you're like, oh, I have all this myself. I know how much this is going to cost. As long as my price of material doesn't go up, I am good. Some of the cons with this are, of course, the quality. Like, humans are humans. Like, there are some things humans can do better, and other things a machine is just going to do better. Like, if you're building some products, of course you can't build them by hand, or it is very counterintuitive to try to build it by hand. Like, even Versus the Rap game, a freestyle rap-based card game, like, I'm not going to make cardboard boxes myself. Making cardboard requires a lot of heavy machinery, and also I shouldn't get the sheet printing equipment they use to do it. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. That's too many fixed costs. Unless I was printing a lot of games, I wouldn't want to invest in the equipment and the materials. You just have to realize, like, machines are better at doing things sometimes, and like humans are better at doing other things. Like, if you're running an Etsy shop, or your product is really simple, like a candle or like a handmade book or something, like, of course you can do that by hand, but depending on your product, like, it may not be worth it to like build your own manufacturing process. Another con of this is scale. So if you build up your own manufacturing plant, and then let's say you guys blow up, you're just going to need more and more equipment. And a lot of times the stuff used to produce small amounts of things can't be used to produce large amounts of stuff. So like, the stuff you're using to make 500 units per month, you're not going to use that stuff to make 1,000 units per month. So you have to plan for the future when you're like building your manufacturing processes. This could be a huge hassle, and you can waste a lot of money doing this. If you go direct to manufacturer or through a middleman, they already have this equipment set up. The manufacturer and the middleman, they've been doing this. All the equipment's set up. They can push a button, load your template on there, and like, your thing will be getting manufactured in a matter of seconds. Like, if you're doing this yourself, you'll spend a long time getting the manufacturing right, even with the best consultants you can find. So it's a lot quicker to just say, hey, other company, produce this, and then have it done. Overall, self-manufacturing, I'd say it can be really viable if it goes with your product. Like, if it's something handmade or made to be really personalized, even like custom jewelry might be a good one. If it's something that's made to be mass-produced, packaged, and sold, shrink-wrapped, you're better off going with a manufacturer until you get so big it's worth the cost to set up your own manufacturing facilities. And this would definitely be the advanced strategy, or if you're very experienced or you're very late in your startup's life cycle. So yeah, basically, in summary, those are the 3 ways to manufacture a physical product. If you're a beginner and the company's in another country especially, I highly recommend going through a middleman. Communication, expertise. The second time you produce something, it's going to be a lot better than the first because you know what to look out for, some of the mistakes, because there are going to be mistakes and things that are going to bother you. But a middleman can make sure nothing catastrophic happens. You lose the $30,000 you invested in that production run because they got the boxes wet, or they printed it upside down, and they forgot the main part of it. So middleman, recommended if you're a beginner. Highly. You can go direct to manufacturer if you have a lot of expertise or experience in the industry or with the product you're trying to produce. You're going to save a lot this way, and if you're producing a bunch, it's probably worth it to do this. There's just a lot to be wary of because a manufacturer can screw you. A lot of companies do fail because the manufacturer did something bad that the company buying the product wasn't aware of. Like, if you have a product, it's a food product, and it spoils like 3 months before they said it would, then you just lost all that product. You have to throw away the inventory. Boom, your business is underwater. Check Kickstarter, it happens all the time. But definitely be an intermediate kind of level startup that I'd recommend doing this. And there are some predatory manufacturers and people you should stay away from. In your own manufacturing processes, I'd recommend it if your product is built for that. The equipment is really low cost, or it's something that's made to be handmade. But if it's something that's being mass produced, or something where it needs to have a very machine grade level of accuracy, you're better off going direct to manufacturer until you get so big you can build up those processes, or you get a team to do it. But when you're starting up, direct to manufacturer or the middleman is the way to go. That's the end of the video. Hope you learned some stuff. If you liked it, subscribe. I'm posting very, very frequently, and I will see you in the next video. I'm going to be doing all kind of startup stuff, so stay tuned, and I will catch you guys. Bye.